Flag salute. Can we please stand for flag salute? Charlotte, can you lead us in the flag salute?
Please rise, place your hand over your heart, and join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, do we have any changes in the agenda?
No changes.
No changes? Okay. Minutes. Public comments. Is there anyone who wishes to address the Cameron Library Board this evening on other items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to the consent calendar.
Move the approval of the consent calendar.
Second. We have a motion and a second for approval of the consent calendar. Please vote. That motion passes 5-0. We do have now departmental items. I think we have some speakers here from the library that want to talk to us. Do you not?
We can have that report now if you'd like.
Yeah, I was going to bring her here after the minutes because they can talk now.
Hello, my name is Aynana, A-Y-A-N-N-A, Gaines, G-A-I-N-E-S. I am the Youth Services Supervisor at the Camarillo Public Library. I wanted to come here to thank you all for supporting the initiative Take 5 and Read that is brought to us by the First 5 group. We are really looking forward to having guest readers come to our library and read stories to our children, who are a excitable bunch. So I'm sure they will be bubbling over with joy to see guest readers taking time out of their busy days to come and read to them. That's going to be in May, and we're really looking forward to it. If anyone has any questions, they can feel free to direct them to me or to my colleague, Joseph Mangold, who is joining me here this evening as well.
So we can call you to be on that list of speakers? Or contact you?
Yes, or you'll be contacted directly by First 5.
Okay.
I think the letter already came out.
It did,
Yeah.
but I hadn't signed up because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to. Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments, questions from our speaker? Seeing none, thank you very much, and we appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you.
We have no departmental items or legal items. Legal counsel, anything for sure? No? Okay. At this point, we'll adjourn until our next meeting.
All right, we'll bring the meeting of the Camarillo Sanitary District to order. Let the record reflect that all directors are present. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
No amendments, Mr. Chair.
All right, are there any public comments for the Board of Directors of the Camarillo Sanitary District? Seeing none, we move to consent calendar.
Move the approval of the consent calendar.
All right, I hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. I didn't hear that, Mr. Morgan. Go ahead and please vote. And that is adopted on a 5-0 vote. Any departmental items? Any items from legal counsel? Comments from staff? Comments from the directors? All right, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting of the Sanitary District.
I call the meeting of the Camarillo City Council to order and ask that the record reflect that all council members are present. Are there any amendments to this agenda?
No amendments, Madam Mayor.
I have an announcement right here I'm going to make. The City Council at a previous meeting took a stand on the, excuse me, the proposal in the governor's budget to have 80 parolees come here for a training program. And we took a position against that proposal. If anybody in the audience would like to submit a card in opposition to the governor's proposal, we have 2 cards in the back on the table. One goes to the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee, and one to the chairman of the Assembly Budget Committee. And these will be out there and available for anybody who'd like to take them. And you have to put your name in and you have to put a stamp on, but we'd appreciate the support. There are no presentations, which gets us down to the consent calendar.
I'll move the approval.
There's a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Under community development, the construction of 2 low-income units at 2521 Berry Street, agreement for sale and development of real property and pre-development loan funding. Could we have the staff report, please?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor Craven and members of the City Council. The City of Camarillo used CDBG funds to acquire an 8,000 square foot vacant lot located at 2521 Berry Street for affordable housing purposes. So this is a view of the project site from Berry Street looking north. Now that the city has acquired the property, we are proposing to enter into an agreement for the sale and development of real property with Habitat for Humanity for the construction of up to 2 units to be sold to low-income families. In addition, this is a sweat equity project, meaning that the families that are selected to purchase the homes will each need to log in 500 hours of sweat equity, actually swinging the hammers and pounding nails, to help construct their homes. Each of the affordable units will include 3 bedrooms and 1 3/4 bath, and have a garage for parking for 2 vehicles. The affordable units will be restricted for a period of 55 years and will reset with each sale after the unit's completed. If the agreement is approved tonight, Habitat and the city will enter into escrow for the sale of the property. Habitat will have a 90-day due diligence period to analyze the development capabilities of the site. Based on their findings, Habitat will submit a residential plan development, or an RPD, application for the entitlements of these units. During this process, Habitat will develop a proposed site plan and elevations for the units for consideration by the Planning Commission. Staff will work with Habitat to ensure the proposed units are compatible with the existing neighborhood. The escrow will remain open, and the city will maintain control of the property until Habitat satisfies the following conditions on the screen, which are the Planning Commission reviews their RPD, the city approves their proposed financing for the project, and the city reviews their construction drawings, and a building permit is ready to be issued. Once Habitat satisfies these conditions, we will close escrow, and the future homeowners will begin constructing their homes. There we go. To assist Habitat with financing their upfront costs, the city will provide Habitat with a pre-development loan not to exceed $250,000. These funds will be used for activities relating to the planning, designing, engineering, utilities, site work, and costs of securing the necessary entitlements, approvals, and permits for the project. Funds will not be distributed directly to Habitat. Habitat will submit invoices to the city for review and approval, and then the city will pay the invoices directly. This process will allow the city to monitor the spending of the funds and ensure that progress is being made during the pre-development phase. Once we are ready to close escrow and move into the construction phase, the loan will be secured to the property with a deed of trust. And then, when the homes are completed, the city agrees to forgive the loan. On January 16, 2018, the Planning Commission made the finding that the project was in conformity with the general plan in accordance with Government Code Section 65402, and a CEQA review was completed on the project and has been determined to be categorically exempt under Class 3 limited facilities and Class 32 infill development. Therefore, no additional review is necessary. Staff suggested action is a motion to authorize the city manager to execute the agreement for the sale and development of real property with Habitat for Humanity and issue a pre-development loan to Habitat for Humanity to assist with pre-construction funding. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Mr. Kildee.
Yeah, David, do you know, and it might be in here, the size of the potential 2 units?
We don't actually limit
know
the
that
size,
yet.
saying it needs to be greater than 1,000 square feet. We're leaving that up to Habitat. What we did is we defined the parameters, saying that it has to have 3 bedrooms, 1 3/4 bathrooms, and a kitchen. So
Okay. And
and
then
the garage. Sorry.
When they take, and it might be in here as well, when they take ownership of that, are they responsible for all the maintenance and the?
Yes,
is
they'll,
the-
yes, there will be homeowners, so they'll be responsible for all maintenance.
and any of the fees or taxes or whatever that comes along with that, they will be responsible for all of that.
Yes, that is correct. The property tax they'll be paying that, and the property tax will be based off the affordable sale price, not the market value of the home.
But
And
any
that's
of
the
there's-
homeowners.
There's no homeowners association that mows their front lawn or anything like
No.
that. Is that they're all responsible for
Yeah,
that?
this is an existing vacant lot in an established neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you.
Just to make sure it's clear, because Mr. Kildee was talking about Habitat, and then he said they will be responsible for maintenance and taxes. It's the homeowner who eventually will be responsible for that, not Habitat.
Yes,
Is that
you are
correct?
correct.
Okay, just trying to make it clear.
It's their
Mrs.
home.
McDonald?
Does Habitat have the buyers yet, or have they got, what's the process they'll go through to get those? Maybe that's a question for Habitat.
I don't believe they have, but we can ask.
And
I have a
that,
card from him.
and then I guess establishing the price, who does that? Does the city have the sales price to the homeowners? Are we involved in that as well, so that we protect that?
Yes, actually, the city will be establishing the sale
We
price.
establish the sales, or you establish the, okay. And the other thing, and again, and maybe this we can ask Habitat for Humanity, so ways for people to help. You know, it's become quite the thing to be able to go out and community can help and build it. So are we going to do an outreach effort? And we all should be out
Why
there
don't we
doing
ask Mr.
something.
Dyer when he,
I don't know if you'd want me to hammer the nails, but I can do something.
Maybe a couple.
A couple.
are there
I can
questions
sweep up
of
the-
staff? Because Mr. Dyer will also speak, but if there are questions on the staff report, Mr. Tremblay.
If I turned on my mic, would it be helpful? I have two questions on Exhibit C of the agreement, and I'm on big page 47. Just generally speaking, David, the units are intended to be sold for a low-income household, and in the agreement, it's defined as a qualified household. Could you just tell us generally, and I know there's a range there, but could you tell us generally in dollar terms what a qualified household would be? And again, that may be a question for Habitat, I'm not sure.
So the qualified household is actually 80% of the median income of the household. So kind of it's a range. So
Right.
the median income is $89,300 for Ventura County. So for a family of four.
So 80% of that amount?
Yeah.
So 89 less 18 would be around 70.
75?
About 71 in that area,
It's approximately about 7.
if I'm doing my mental math correctly? Okay, for a family of four. Okay. And then the second question has to do with the setting on the resale, the setting of the maximum price. And again, that's in Exhibit C on big page 59. And it discusses the maximum sales price that the owner can receive. How that's set at, just walk me through that again to make sure I understand it. It's the original sale price plus a CPI kicker,
Yes.
and the city actually sets that price, correct?
So it's just to kind of walk you through that. The
Yeah, let's do
original
that.
sale price plus the consumer price index for the Los Angeles, Riverside, and Orange County area, and then we index the price, and then we allow them to add their closing costs, which as a placeholder initially we do $10,000, and then if they improve the unit, and add some enhancements and keep their receipts, and they can show that they did that, then we can add that to the cost of the resale cost also. However, there's a catch that the maximum sale price cannot exceed the affordable housing cost, which is the formula of 30% of 70% of the area median income.
So logically, that's a ceiling that's set.
Precisely.
But they would walk away with some equity, some appreciated equity that they could then utilize for their next housing.
Yes, that's correct,
Correct.
and that's absolutely the intent.
Right. So that they can play it forward, utilize that whatever that amount of equity is for their next home, and then someone else comes in with that maximum sales price set in the manner that you just described, right?
Right, exactly. We recycle the unit
Okay.
for another family that would, qualify.
Okay.
Point of clarification, if I may. David, that assumes that the affordability level has gone up rather than down, because there are times where that affordability index from HUD has gone the other way.
Yes, that is correct. In those
Okay.
situations, it would stay flat. We wouldn't actually reduce the resale, because then they'd actually be taking a loss. And if it dips below, making it whole, then it would be below their mortgage rate or their mortgage amount. So it'll just hold the line until until the CPR median income would come up again.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? Okay, I have a card from Steve Dyer, Habitat for Humanity.
Very good, thank you. My name's Steve Dwyer. I'm the Executive Director with Habitat for Humanity in Ventura County. It's good to be back here in front of you again talking about a new affordable housing development. And I'll make a few comments and I'll try to address some of the questions that were asked as well. So first of all, I want you to know that Habitat for Humanity in Ventura County is truly excited about being back in Camarillo to build some additional homes. Some of you have, I know, were very involved in the Loop Drive project as the last one, and I believe that goes back, boy, quite a while now.
And the Acacia one.
Yes. But I want you to know about some of our recent projects. We are just now, by this summer, we'll complete the 70th home that Habitat has built in Ventura County over the last 22 years. Our two most recent projects were 8 new homes that were completed in Santa Paula in 2017, and we're in the midst right now of a 6-home development in the La Colonia neighborhood of Oxnard. And to give you a sense of our operations from both a development and a construction company perspective, our development in Oxnard was 10 months in the entitlement process, and we will have a 10-month construction process to complete all 6 units. If you ever want a tour, I'd be more than happy to meet you on site and give you a tour of those homes under construction. It is quite a lively site. And so with that comment, let me address the volunteer opportunity, because we do build about 80% of the value using volunteers directed by our construction manager. Some of the things we do sub out are the grading and the foundation work, a lot of specialty work in getting the foundation done properly. We also sub out things like drywall and insulation, a little harder for volunteers to do. On a 2-story unit, we might sub out the roofing for safety purposes, but pretty much everything else in the home is purchased material at the best rates that we can achieve, and then constructed with volunteers. And so I do hope to see all of you out there helping us out as we do perhaps a staff and council build day one time. I want you to know our board of directors has prioritized this particular program to be our next construction effort. We're ready to get started immediately on the entitlement process and shift our construction team over here to Camarillo in the fall, when we expect to be ready to start putting our hands into the dirt and building of the walls. As was mentioned, this is a sweat equity project, and if I can say that we have not started the family selection process. The documents say that we will prioritize families that live or work in Camarillo, and we would hold meetings and advertise such that families here will know of that possibility, and we will meet with them to talk about the specific process that we go through. And they will have to be within the income guidelines, which the number actually just changed, and there's some modifiers in there. Right now in Ventura County, the number just changed, and what is qualified by HUD as a low-income family, the maximum income for family of 4 is $81,000 today. Okay? That number just tweaked up a little bit in some publication that came out a couple of weeks ago.
Are there any other
I'm happy to
questions?
take any questions.
Mr. Morgan?
I know I'm over my time, but
No, you are answering questions.
You were.
That's different.
From I helped out on that one on Loop, but are you going to have the equipment there, like the guns, so when you put the drywall up, you can shoot them in, or are you going to have to tack them in with a hammer?
So we do hire out the drywall.
Oh, you do?
It just happens to be, drywall is one of those things we can all do, but for something we want to look perfect for the next 50 years, it is one of those things
good.
professionals often do better than volunteers. A good example, though, would be siding.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to use Hardy Board siding, which is a durable, long-lasting product,
Right.
which is nailed in with nail guns.
Okay, so you'll have the, good.
Yeah. So we go through all the safety procedures on those types of things.
Makes it easier when you have a nail gun.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'll try to be there to help you.
Fantastic.
Any other questions? Mr. Kildee?
Steve, just a little bit of follow-up. At some point, you'll probably let us know the size of the units and various other things about that.
Yeah, actually, on that note, to get 2 homes on this site of a size appropriate for, what we hope to be young, growing families, we've certainly agreed to 3 bedrooms, 1 3/4 baths, but in order to get 2 units on the property, they will certainly need to be 2-story units. Conceptual thoughts and ideas would put these in the range of 1,400 to 1,500 square feet. Okay, so and with what we're trying to do is design them in a way that there will be sort of an ADA type of ground floor with a bedroom and a bathroom on the ground floor, because we know that families change over time. And we could have a 3-generation family apply for the home. We could have a family with, say, 6 kids. So the kids are upstairs in 2 bedrooms and the parents have space downstairs. So we're trying to design it in such a way that understands that we want these to be homes for younger, growing families over time and be able to meet the needs of various types of families.
I wanted to follow up. Will there be a backyard?
Yes,
with that?
there is
Yeah.
room. This is quite a long lot, so there is plenty of room for some backyard space.
Good.
Will you notify us when you need volunteers so we can know when to if we can help?
Absolutely. In fact, to that point, we have actually terrific demand from the corporate sector to use Habitat projects as build days, from the faith community to come out and build with us. You can expect over the course of this construction period to have approximately 3,000 volunteer days to build these 2 homes. That's about 100 a week for somewhere in the range of 8 to 9 is what we would expect to be the build schedule.
Very good.
So you'll have a lot of people coming to Berry Street.
Good. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. What are the wishes of council?
I'll make a motion that we authorize the city manager to execute the agreement with Habitat for Humanity and issue a pre-development loan for Habitat for Humanity in the amount of $250,000 to assist with the pre-construction funding.
Second, Your Honor.
A motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. We're down to City Manager, Proposition 69, Motor Vehicle Fees and Taxes, Restriction on Expenditures Appropriations Limit, Resolution Supporting Proposition, and Joining Coalition to Protect Local Transportation Improvements. Could we have the staff report, please?
Good evening, Mayor Craven and Council.
Could you pull the mic up closer, Roger? Thanks.
There we go. Good evening, Mayor Craven and council members and members of the public. The item before you this evening has to do with Proposition 69. And on March 19th, 2018, the City Council Ledge Committee reviewed Proposition 69, which basically is part of a legislative package that included Senate Bill 1. And the governor signed Senate Bill 1 into law on April 28, 2017. What SB 1 does is essentially provides funding for local jurisdictions to basically maintain and rehabilitate streets and roads, and there's also funding for state highways as well. Now, in terms of Proposition 69, Proposition 69 seeks to amend the state constitution by requiring the legislature to spend the generated revenues from the new diesel sales taxes and transportation fees for transportation purposes. such as repairing roads and improving transit. Additionally, Proposition 69 prohibits the state from loaning the revenues, using the transportation improvement fee revenues to repay state transportation bonds without voter approval. So the only way to alter these requirements would be for the voters to approve another constitutional amendment in the future. So essentially what we're doing here is trying to protect a source of funding that we're currently receiving. The city of Camarillo receives an allocation of, I believe, $1.2 million annually, and I think that's for the next 10 years, 1.2 annually, and I think it's adjusted for inflation as well. So what we're asking the city council today is to consider the committee's recommendation to support resolution, to adopt a resolution supporting Proposition 69 and joining in coalition to protect local transportation improvements.
Okay. Other questions?
You know,
Anybody on the committee like to make a report?
go ahead, I'll listen to your report first.
Well, we did discuss this at committee, and no matter what your position might have been on SB 1, it's law right now, and some people hope it stays, some people are challenging that, but it's the law, and so we want to make sure we protect the integrity of that law and keep the state's hands out of that pot of money for all, as they do so often, and use it for other purposes. So basically, it's saying use it for the intended purposes, and I believe it includes not borrowing against it. Doesn't it as well,
What he
Roger?
said.
Yeah.
Yes.
Except for cash flow purposes.
Oh,
Except for what?
Cash flow.
well, that took care of all that, didn't
That's
it?
into that.
See, I don't remember the cash flow
I
purposes.
don't either. I don't like these.
Okay.
Well, besides that, the intent was you do everything you can to keep the money where it belongs and its intended purpose. Cash flow probably. Oh, well.
Mr. Tremblay.
Well, I think Mrs. McDonald hit the nail on the head in terms of the description, and regardless of how you feel about SB1, et cetera. But another way to put this, isn't it? Would it be fair to say that another way to put this is it closes two loopholes in the original SB1 with respect to transportation improvement fees and diesel sales taxes, and would preclude the rate or a potential rate on those two components of SB1, and that then strengthens. It gets rid of those loopholes. Is that a fair way to look at it?
Almost.
Almost, okay.
Other until we hit
Get
that
me to the
cash
final-
flow thing.
Well, yeah, other than the cash
Kind
flow
of
thing.
blew it all up.
Other than the cash flow thing, that's a fair way to look at it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Morgan.
Because it kind of bothers me, the cash flow thing. The last time we did this, in the last tax bill we had, and they said they promised it'd be all for transportation, they ended up borrowing the money. They haven't paid it back yet. So that money that was going to go for transportation, a lot of it didn't. This one, that one loophole bothers me, because when it says cash flow, I think the whole thing is during emergency situation cash flow. Is that not right, Mr. City Attorney?
I would have to look into that, but I believe that it would depend upon what the cash flow looks like, whether that's an emergency or not.
Who's I?
Well, they can come up with a lot of excuses for more cash flow, and I think that's the one shortcoming of this one, because I think they'll do it.
Yeah, I don't know that it's qualified by there having to be an emergency.
I just, it's a good way of trying to protect what's out there, and this doesn't say I'm against what they're doing about taking the taxes away. Okay, because I'm really pretty much for that. Because, again, this leaves a loophole again, that they can take it if they want to. If it's a cash flow problem, they'll call it cash flow emergency. I'm sorry, we need more for the train. We don't have cash flow. And that bullet train to nowhere. Anyway, there's a lot of problems we have with this one. I'm going to vote for it only because at least it tries to save what we can save out of that, out of SB1. I'm not saying I'm for SB1. No.
So what are the wishes of the council?
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we adopt a resolution supporting Proposition 69 and join the coalition to protect local transportation improvements.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. I still can't find the cash flow part, though. Did I totally read right by it?
Yeah.
Which page?
Big page. Sorry. A6 at the top of page 2 of 2. It's not in the text, though, Ms.
Oh,
McDonald.
maybe
It's
that's
in the
why I
staff
can't
report.
find, oh.
But it's not in the text.
So we're sure it doesn't,
It's in the committee report that we reviewed.
but it's not in this agenda item. That I'm not finding it. Is that why I'm not finding it?
Big page 9.
Oh, my gosh.
I have the big page numbers. on.
Roger, this is for, wasn't it for emergency situations, tax shortage, or income whatever?
You can't loan them out.
Well, the governor has to proclaim a fiscal
Emergency.
Oh. okay.
Emergency, yes, it was.
The legislature has to approve that by 2/3.
Gotcha.
So it's not,
Okay.
we need money and we need to borrow from this fund. It's not that simple.
Perfect, okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
Gotcha.
so I know we have a motion in a second, and we'll call a question, but when these kinds of matters come up to us in the future, I would request that we have the actual text
Yes.
of the proposition that would provide
Yes.
to us, because I want to read the text, the legal text.
Tony, the only reason I knew that about the emergency is I got, not a copy, but was told about that being included as emergency situation, tap money, they could take it.
Well, it's in the staff
vote.
report, too.
Right.
So, okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. At some point, we're going to go into closed session for a couple of issues, so I'd ask the city attorney to tell us now the conditions under which we're going to be going into closed session.
Yes, we have a conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. It's the initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4. The number of cases is 2. And we have 2 real property items. They're both authorized by Government Code Section 54956.8. One of them involves the proposed desalter parcel and the information regarding the agency directors agency negotiators is included in the packet under negotiation or price and terms of payment. The other property is the former stock building supply property located on Berry Street and Lewis, and the agency negotiators are listed in the agenda, and under negotiation or price and terms of payment.
Okay? That gets us down to new business, oral communications, informational items only. Mr. City Manager?
Nothing, Madam Mayor.
Mr. City Attorney?
I have no items.
City Council, we'll start with Mr. Kildee tonight.
Mr. Kildee tonight, okay. Here we go. Attended the joint meeting with the Pleasant Valley Recreation Park District with all the other council members. And last night with the Fire and Parolee community meeting, and I thought our mayor did a very good job with a challenging situation here, but you ran the meeting very, very well, and I was very proud of you. And appreciated all the comments that the council members made, and those of us that turned in a yellow card. And the reason why I did that, because I wanted to make sure that the constituents, our own constituents, which were some, but there were other constituents out there too, had their opportunities to address, their feelings on this issue here. So, thought that you did a very good job on that.
Thank you.
And with that, that's all I have tonight.
Okay, Mrs. McDonald?
Okay, meeting-wise, VCOG Admin Committee meeting, and hopefully you've all gotten your notice on our annual meeting. It will be at the Reagan Library this year in June, and I don't have the exact date, June 14th, I think.
Well, wait, maybe.
It's that Thursday. Flag Day, is it the 14th? Oh, good. And so it will be at the Reagan Library, which is always nice. The joint meeting with the Pleasant Valley Recreation Parks District that we all attended, and we have more work to do on that, so that story's not done yet. VCTC meeting last Friday, and I think you probably all read in the paper that the potential sale of Roadrunner is back on again, so again, that story's not quite finished, but we're getting closer. And then again last night for the meeting of the which was supposed to be a community meeting. I'm not sure it turned out to be such, but Anyway, you did do a good job considering
Thank you.
we were somewhat, I don't know what the right way of putting it. The meeting was hijacked, so to speak.
Hijacked, I think, is a good word.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate for our community, but that's life, and you did a good job under the circumstances. I have a couple, following up on that, you mentioned tonight you have the cards. Can they find them at, where can people get the cards if they're not here in the audience today? And I know we'd all like a few so we can pass them out. Sit out at the front counter? Okay.
We'll distribute them around all the open counters in City Hall.
Okay, so if somebody wants to come get them, and then get several to pass out, you'll have enough of a supply that some of our organizations can get them, okay. And then I'm almost done with tax season, so I'll be more than happy to get back into this one.
Well, I did realize this was your busiest season and gave you some
Gave me a
some
couple
leeway
of
there.
weeks off, but I'll be back, I promise. So we've been through this a few times together. And that should remind everyone, your taxes are due on the 17th of April.
Thank you.
That was a sly way of getting that in.
And if you can't file your return, you can file an extension, but remember, that is not an extension to pay your taxes. Yeah, sorry. I have one request, and it kind of came to mind when we were talking at the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District Needs Assessment. We used to have a chart that I believe our finance department did that took, let's say, sales tax of, what's it going to be, I can do that in my head, $37 and something gets you down to $10 worth of sales tax. And if we got $10,000 or $10 worth of sales tax at, let's say, the Outlet Mall, where does that $10 go? Obviously to Sacramento. And how much do we get back? So it's kind of in a diagram that shows exactly what we get out of both sales tax, maybe do the same thing with property tax. So you get it down on something that people can really equate to and understand.
As to what small portion the city of Camarillo
It
gets.
used to be a penny out of a dollar. I don't know what it is anymore.
No, 15, 16 cents, isn't it?
No, it's
No.
1%.
Yeah, 1%.
I thought that Ojai was the only city in the county that got 1% of the
1%.
sales tax, and we got 1/16 less.
No,
Oh, 1/16 less than they got? Yes.
no. It's one, we get
It's
all
still-
1%.
Still what, less than a penny or anyway.
When did that
But-
change?
But I would like to see that in a diagram so that we can use it as somewhat of a talking point as well, because it got to that talk about the taxes, we're all in it together. But the one that I don't think people realize that we don't get all that money.
Right.
And where does it go? It goes to Sacramento. How much goes to the county? How much goes to the different agencies? And make it simple, but give enough facts that it really tells the story.
We can do that.
And do the same thing with user tax, property taxes, the bigger taxes that
Property tax.
go out, come back.
Can I follow up on that a little bit? Because I had a call today from someone from Santa Paula. Now, realizing theirs is different, they're a full-service city, not a contract city. And that same question came up. I said, I can't be responsible for what your taxes you're collecting in your city and how much is distributed. But there is a amount of property tax. Theirs is probably a little more because they're a full-service
Like
city.
16% over there.
But I know. But I'm trying to say is that what she's talked about in showing what we in particular, where it goes, I mean, I knew the 1%, but the property tax, I'm still not knowing how much was the state and how much goes to the county.
Even how much goes to the special districts, if you can find that out, because
Right. We actually have a very helpful graph from our property tax consultants. It actually breaks down that property tax and how much is distributed to each agency. It's like on a bar graph, so it lists everything out by percentage. And every agency is different, so ours will look different than a neighboring city.
Yes.
Those percentages are different. And then sales tax consultants also provide us with a graph of what our 7.5%, depending on what agency. Some agencies have a special additional tax. Will identify for us what we get. So I know that those graphs are available, but we can start with those. And
yeah,
then
kind of fine tune it to,
Thank you.
to work for us. Something we can all have and use.
Okay,
That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Morgan.
Yes. I had a meeting with you guys at the PVR, Pleasant Valley Rec and Park District Needs Assessment, which was an interesting meeting. It went long, and we had a lot of good comments and knowing kind of what some's big goals are and some's that are realistic. But I think it was very educational, and maybe we can come to some conclusions. We had a Cameron Ranch Board, and we're looking at goals for the future and budgets for the future and how we're going to pay for certain things. And we'll be discussing that more at our retreat that's coming up here soon. I can't remember the date, but it's coming soon.
20th?
Yeah. Anyway, we'll be discussing that more because there are a lot of changes going on as far as our own goals at the board. And we can give you more of that after the retreat. Air Pollution Control Board, I'm on the board, but I'm also on the standing committee. If you're absent, you get put on standing committee for the next year. And I missed one, and they put me on standing committee. Anyway, we got through a lot of little, it wasn't long. It just had to do a lot of little things like how much pollutants are coming out of the particulates are coming out of the ships and things, and how it's been improved by 25%, which used to be just our biggest polluter was the ships coming through that channel. Well, now they're slowed down, and they also can't burn bunker fuel anymore. It has to be out on the ocean. But there's some other things coming on too, and we do reward them when they go a lot slower, as kind of because it doesn't give us as much as pollutants. It's helped us a lot. I went to the standing committee meeting. That's just one of the items. I don't want to go through every one of them, but just general business, like adding a position or two for some stations, testing stations around the county. Standing committee, we looked at the budget. There's another hour going through the budget because we have to come back and recommend that to the regular board. So we finished that, and because of certain things happening, we'll be a little short, like $700,000, and that's something caused by the state of California. You have mandates, and they don't want to pay for it this year. Now, well, if you're going to mandate, you should be paying for it, but they're not. But he's given us some good ideas on how we can. We've already made up $500,000 already, and so Mike is very good exec. Mike Villegas. We all went to the fire process parolee community meeting. Very interesting meeting. I think we had half of LA here. Half of people from other parts of Southern California here. But interesting meeting, and we let it be known to the people up here that we're not crazy about what they're trying to do to us. In fact, we're fighting it. Went to the AWA executive meeting, and that was just all budget for the Association of Water Agencies. So we were just doing budget. That's the only thing. Ribbon cutting at Art Gallery, and this was a different one. She's a teacher, singing teacher. And she has a little group that they perform, but she's a singing teacher also. And so that was very interesting. She sang a little for us there. That was it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Tremblay?
Sure. It's been a busy period. We had the March 29th, the meeting, our special joint meeting with the council and the PVRPD Board of Directors regarding the needs assessment. I thought it was a constructive conversation. I thought the public comments were good. And it was good to see both legislative bodies meeting jointly. I thought that was significant, so I appreciated that very much. On April 4th and April 5th, I was in Sacramento with the mayor, advocating on behalf of the city in opposition to the governor's proposal for the establishment of the Parolee Fire Training Center. I will simply say that we had a lot of meetings with legislators and budget committee members and staffs. On April 5, because I was in Sacramento, Mr. Kildee covered a LACE board meeting for me, and I wanted to thank him for that. I really appreciated that, and I think I will thank Mrs. McDonald in advance because she's going to be covering an EDC-VC meeting coming up next week, after tax season finishes, but covering that for me while I'm away. On April 9th, Mrs. Craven and I had a policy committee meeting, and yesterday I had both an EDC-VC executive committee meeting and then the community meeting last night on the Parolee Fire Training Center proposal, and I want to echo my colleagues' comments. Madam Mayor, I thought you did a good job running that meeting.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
Where do I start? I want to say that the new monument and landscaping look tremendous out there by the wall along Daly Drive. And I'm glad that the chain link fence is down. Looks great. Looks really good. Could we have some kind of a report? We had some significant rains, I thought. And I'm wondering what happened with the debris flow barriers out at Camarillo Springs.
Sure, yes. The rain gauge is still up on the slope, so it did measure, I believe, roughly right around 3 inches, 3 to 4 inches. I can't remember exactly the number. On that period of storms, that ranged a few days. And it all came, pretty well spread over that period of time. We did a site inspection of the entire project area that the city was involved in up there, including the debris barriers. No debris was captured behind any of the 5 barriers.
Good.
The revegetation of the entire area is in line with what we've been told by other inspections, specifically the county. The geologist has been up there making the statement that it's been restored to pre-burn conditions, and which our inspection verifies. And the performance of all of our grading, diversion berms are holding up and performing as designed and as expected, with no runoff and no impacts at all.
Good.
The Tana ramp rework was the latest item that was completed out there. Actually on the consent item here was a final pay estimate and completion of the contract with our contractor that performed all that work out there. So that's performed exactly as designed and intended, and is looking really green.
Good, thank you.
Charlotte,
Yes.
by the way, I get a call from someone that they're out there taking pictures because there's flowers up there now in that area. I got to go look at myself. But they said people are being drawn there because there's flowers up in there.
You got an email.
So,
Got an email on
yep.
that. Okay, so I attended one ribbon cutting. I attended the joint meeting with the Recreation and Park District, and after that I left for San Diego so that early the next morning I could be at the first meeting with one of the admirals over sea or air. I forget which was first, I'm sorry. We had 2 meetings. The third meeting was canceled. But that was that day I went down to San Diego for the RDP 21. Also attended an RDP 21 meeting. And if I were to make a report on that meeting to you, I would simply start with A and go to Z, and then I'd start with the number 1 and go to about 500, because I didn't understand anything the man said. It was complete alphabet soup. They talked about airplanes, they talked about all kinds of things, and everything was in acronyms that were simply letters and numbers. So I'm sure there were most of the people there, I'm sure, understood what he said, but I came out and what's her name? Selena Zacharias, and I agreed that neither one would make a very thorough report on that meeting. Attended a policy committee meeting and the special meeting last night, as everybody else has said. And then I went to Sacramento to lobby against the governor's proposal. And I've got to tell you something. I learned a lot from Mr. Tremblay on lobbying. I've been up there lobbying many, many times in the past 31 years. But did any of you know that he spent 2 years working up there?
Remember it.
Yeah. And he knows exactly how to walk in and what words to use to have them go to the back and find somebody, even after they tell you nobody's there, so that you can talk to people. our first meeting was at 11 a.m. when we flew up. Unfortunately, we were fogged in at Burbank and didn't arrive until we could make the 12 o'clock meeting. And we were on the first plane out. But in the half day, the one day, and most of the day the next day, I went through and counted. And between the two of us, because I testified at a hearing while Mr. Tremblay was still tromping up and down the halls, we got into and talked to people in 25 offices. And we actually talked to and had significant conversations at 9 offices. And I thought that was really good. The reactions were mixed. I was surprised. Some of them agreed wholeheartedly with us. Some listened and didn't comment. And then there were others who felt that no amount of money would be too much to spend to make people feel better about themselves, which is kind of what people said last night. They didn't get the skills in the fire camps that got them into a new job, but it gave them a lot of skills, and it gave them a time in their lives when they felt good about themselves and were able to go out and get some kind of a job. And so that's the discussion right now up there. So anyway, that's what I did, and we've taken a lot of time. Just in case you haven't seen it, the packet that we took up looked like this. It had the walk piece that we developed. It had the governor's proposal, or that part that involved it, this fire camp. It had our letter, the Board of Supervisors letter, the VCOG letter, and it had the article from the San Jose Mercury News written by the young woman who had the training and has not been able to get a job for years. So that's what we did, and I think we just need to keep the heat on. And so with that...
What did you feel after going to all those offices? Your overall impression of,
As I
will
said,
it
it
still
was mixed.
pass?
I think it's possible for us to get there, but it was mixed.
Okay.
You have any other comments other than it was a mixed reaction?
No, I think that's a fair characterization.
Okay, with that, we will recess to a study session, and if there's time, we'll get into the closed sessions as discussed by the city attorney previously. So we will recess now, and we'll be in the administrative conference room. The study session is open to the public. The closed session, of course, is not. And we will be back here in open session at 7:30. Call the meeting of the Camarillo City Council back to order and ask that the record reflect that all council members are present. Mr. Kildee, could you lead us in the salute to the flag, please?
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have two presentations tonight. The first one is about the 50th anniversary of the Fair Housing Act, and we're going to have their video first. Is that correct?
We just have a couple of comments, and then we'll go over the video, if that's... We have a couple of just brief comments, and then we'll run the video, if that's okay?
Sure.
Thank you so much, Mayor Craven and council members. My name is Cher Hurd, and I am the Local Government Relations Chair for the Ventura County Coastal Association of Realtors. And we are highlighting that April is Fair Housing Month. We are proud and happy to share with you that housing and fair housing, the American dream, is alive and well here in Camarillo, and we are representing as realtors that model of always using fairness when housing our community and looking out for the best interests of those in our community. I would like to introduce to you our president-elect of our association, Ventura County Coastal Association of Realtors, Jorge De Leon. He is also a board director member of the Real Estate Fraud Advisory Team, and he has a few words, and he will present the video so that you can view the video from REFAT. Okay.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Craven and members of the City Council. As Sheriff said, my name is Jorge De Leon. I'm a former resident of Camarillo. My first 3 kids actually were born at the Camarillo Hospital here, and the third one, they closed the neonatal, so we ended up having to have our fourth baby out in Thousand Oaks. But the point that I'm here is, as Cher mentioned, fair housing is something that is very important, and we join many realtors across the country, over 1 million realtors across the country, that celebrate this as the 50th year of fair housing. It's something that is very important for our communities to make sure that we have thriving communities and proper housing. I'm also here representing an organization called REFAT, the Real Estate Fraud Advisory Team. That is an organization that is composed by the District Attorney's Office and a collaboration with the Association of Realtors. And through that organization, what we do is we help the District Attorney go out there and investigate real estate fraud. We also direct individuals that have been defrauded in our community. And if you read the newspaper, there's been several arrests in the last 10, 15 years, actually 12 years, and we've been able to clean up our communities. The Real Estate Fraud Advisory Team is something that has been mirrored across the state of California, and we've been able to help other counties, inclusive of Riverside, Los Angeles, and Northern California, to be able to set up their own real estate fraud advisory team with that same collaboration. And we have been able to get a lot of perpetrators out of the marketplace and, again, helping our community thrive. So we want to thank you for supporting us, and the video is going to give you a synopsis of what we do in the community.
The schemes involving real estate fraud are as diverse as its victims and its perpetrators. They follow market trends and are often disguised as help. Fraudulent practices are found in every culture at all economic levels, and anyone can be victimized. There has been so much fraud in Ventura County that the district attorney formed a special unit to receive complaints and investigate them. As a result, many predators have been arrested, prosecuted, and are serving prison terms. You can help identify.
I'm sorry. Let me back that up. Stop and see what I did here.
The schemes involving real estate fraud are as diverse as its victims and its perpetrators. They follow market trends and are often disguised as help. Fraudulent practices are found in every culture at all economic levels, and anyone can be victimized. There has been so much fraud in Ventura County that the district attorney formed a special unit to receive complaints and investigate them. As a result, many predators have been arrested, prosecuted, and are serving prison terms. You can help identify these schemes and report them. One example is as simple as someone forging the signatures of elderly homeowners who have no heirs. Other examples are the interception of tax bills and creating artificial documents granting ownership to a nonprofit organization, taking upfront fees to help someone short sell their home, or convincing a homeowner to grant title to the property to a party who promises them profit after a period of time or promises to sell the home back to them. If the scheme sounds too good to be true, it likely is, and deserves to be examined. The Ventura County Coastal Association of Realtors and other real estate-related professionals have partnered with the District Attorney's Office to prevent fraudulent schemes, detect them when they occur, and report them for investigation. No one is exempt. Many schemes are hard to imagine, and many schemes have yet to be invented. If you suspect real estate fraud, call 805-751-5899 or visit www.refat.org. This is the kind of help you can trust.
Well, we have a proclamation because this is the 50th anniversary of the Fair Housing Act. So people worked really hard to develop the right words, so I always read the words. This is a proclamation of the mayor of the city of Camarillo, California, for the Fair Housing Act's 50th anniversary. Whereas April 10th, 2018 marks the 50th anniversary of the passage of Title 8 of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, which enunciates the national policy of fair housing without regard to race, color, religion, sex, familial status, handicap, and national origin, and encourages fair housing opportunities for all. And whereas the Ventura County Coastal Association of Realtors and the Real Estate Fraud Advisory Team are committed to highlighting the Fair Housing Act by continuing to address discrimination in our community and supporting programs that educate the public about the right to equal housing opportunities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Charlotte Craven, Mayor of the City of Camarillo, and jointly with my fellow council members, hereby recognize the 50th anniversary of the passing of the Fair Housing Act. It's signed by all the council members, and we're very proud of our beautiful proclamations, and we thank you for bringing this to our Jorge. Okay, thank you, Cher, and thank you, Jorge, for bringing this to our attention. And do you have any more words you'd like to say?
I just wanted to let you know that we're very proud. We're very proud of the fact that you are giving us the opportunity of share with you what we are doing in the community, and that we encourage you to continue to support fair housing in Camarillo, because it provides a thriving community for all members of our county. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming. Oh.
Good job.
And we have another proclamation to recognize the National Boys and Girls Club Week. So could Roberto and whoever you have with you come on up?
Hello. Director of Youth Services, Andrew Wiesner.
Good to see you. And we met at Chess Club the other night. Okay, this is a proclamation of the mayor of the city of Camarillo for National Boys and Girls Club Week. Whereas the young people of Camarillo are tomorrow's leaders, and whereas the Boys and Girls Clubs of Camarillo provide young people professional youth services not otherwise available to them with social, financial, and other hardships. And whereas the Boys and Girls Club of Camarillo leads the way in the fight against substance abuse and delinquency, and in the campaign for an increase in and the strengthening of daycare and literacy and other programs which serve young people, the Boys and Girls Club of Camarillo ensures that our youth are offered a safe, supportive, and nurturing place to go while providing them with quality programs. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Charlotte Craven, Mayor of the City of Camarillo, and jointly with my fellow council members, recognize April 8 through 14, 2018, as National Boys and Girls Club Week, and wishes the Boys and Girls Club of Camarillo continued success. This is also signed by all of the council members, and we thank you for bringing this to our attention. And congratulations for having such a long-standing program here for the youth of Camarillo. But I'm going to quit talking and let you talk.
Well, I just want to thank the city of Camarillo for all the support you give the families of the Boys and Girls Club every year. I think the most powerful statistic I've read is that here locally in Camarillo, 93% of the parents whose children attend the club say that if it was not for the Boys and Girls Club, they would not be able to work. Because we fill that supervision gap every day when the school day ends and parents are still at work. We provide that atmosphere where kids to come and learn and have fun. And it's a credit to Andrew and all his staff, our board of directors, our volunteers, and really the city of Camarillo, which has been so supportive. So I really thank you all for all your support.
Okay. Thank you for coming. Oh, a photo.
Put the tall guy in the middle.
Your Honor?
Thank you. Yes.
One thing, just quick, Carlos. Let everybody know how many kids are there in the afternoons on the average.
We serve over 400 kids a day.
Yep, a lot of kids.
And Mrs. McDonald, I know you serve on the board of the Boys and Girls Club. Do you have some words to add?
Well, absolutely. The Boys and Girls Club is a great place to be, and it's because of Roberto and his staff. And Andrew's doing a great job with programming. Not only do the kids have a safe place to go, but it's amazing the educational program that they have. The kids have to finish their homework before they get to have some of the activities. So imagine as a working parent, you go home, you pick up your kids, and you don't have to worry about getting their homework done. You have that quality time with them and can sit down and relax with them. And so it's just it's an amazing program, and it just makes you feel so good as a community that we help take care of those kids and the families who need that little extra help. So it's a great place to be. And thank you.
Okay, we have public comments, and I also have an announcement. But we'll go to public comments first. First is Matthew Lorimer. How could I read that name wrong? I've read it so many times. Sorry, I apologize.
No problem. I want to talk about a few weeks ago. I've been an advocate for seniors in this community about building a new senior center. I didn't need an $85,000 study to tell you that it leaked. It's not ADA compliant when people use the restroom. I was really disappointed, and the reason why, for 30 years, this city has not given money to their senior center, like other cities who've given $250,000. What struck me funny is everybody, when they were done with that presentation, this city council said, that's not what I expected, $55,000. So let me ask you this question. When you write a check for half of that, where was the city manager? Why wasn't there any direction given that this was supposed to be for a senior center? This looks like an entire rebuild of that complex. A senior center. Each one of you stood for months. I've talked about this for years. We need a senior center. So this study really got off on a bad start because the people in the audience were going, 118 years of experience, this is what we continue to get. It should have been a clear directive. This was about building a new senior center. The other one is in terrible shape. Instead, it went off the railroad tracks. And you know something? You guys wrote the check. You have a city manager who makes $250,000. Why wasn't a directive given exactly what the focus was? I didn't hear anybody talk about that. Mike Mishler was stunned too, but the point is, you guys are the ones who have been pushing for this study, and it was sloppy. I mean, it was very sloppy. I mean, we were talking about building a senior center, and then you guys afterwards said, I can't believe what I just heard. Well, what do you mean you can't believe it? You paid for half the study. Didn't you give any direction? I'm really amazed at what I heard. We need a senior center. And the idea, it's like you put a $55,000 thing and scare the public. I think it's really bad. The next thing I want to talk about is conflict of interest. Ms. Craven, you should have said that you did Hammers and Hearts for Habitat. when you go to cocktail parties, Miss Jan McDonald, I wasn't talking about you, but when you have elected officials who are going to cocktail parties or raising money for fundraisers, you should not vote on giving money to nonprofits or anybody else. It's a conflict of interest. Tony Tremblay, he's the newest member. He bows out. If something's going on, even he's an attorney, he bows out. I think you guys should really learn to focus a little bit. If you're going to fundraisers, anything that has to do with giving money to nonprofits or anybody, you should not vote. So I hope it's a lesson for the future, because it was really disappointing. Thank you very much.
I usually don't respond, but I'm going to have the city attorney explain the difference in a financial conflict of interest when people up here respond, and also comment on whether we pay $50 or whatever for a ticket to a fundraiser and how that might or might not create a conflict of interest legally. I mean, that's what Mr.
Well, it was kind of unclear to me what Mr. Lormer was trying to get to, but let me say this, that this council consistently complies with all of the laws with respect to conflict of interests. And as a matter of fact, whenever there's any issue with regards to a potential conflict, council members will identify that and will recuse themselves from participation in the discussion. And beyond that, actually, the city, I believe, is a year ago, perhaps longer, adopted a policy with regard to community events, and if a council member sits on the board or is an officer of any of the organizations that sponsor community events, we have a policy now where that council member will not participate in the discussion or the vote, even though there's no law which would prohibit that. So, in my opinion, the city council in Camarillo is very transparent and has fully complied with all conflict of interest laws, and I have no idea what Mr. Lormer is talking about when he suggests that anything other than that is true.
Thank you. Jill Ingram, please come forward. I'm sorry, I didn't explain the ground rules because Mr. Lormer's been here a lot and he understands we have a 3-minute rule. So I have other cards. I will explain. Excuse me. You can see a clock. I can see a clock. It does count down. When it gets to 1 minute, there will be a tone and it changes color and to yellow. And then when your time has gotten down to 0, it turns red and there's another tone, and we do ask people to adhere by our 3-minute rule, please. Okay, that's all. And just pull that microphone down and then speak right into it and state your name for the record.
Greetings to the rotation of City Council, to the new mayor, rotated Charlotte Craven, and I like to say to everybody, because I still can't keep up with, I'll just say, hi, everybody. Thank you for listening to me. And I had read something just a few days back in the Acorn, which, I just didn't know about. I'm always interested in crime, and people have a right to be rehabilitated, but at the same time, I don't like a community to be threatened with dangerous people like, of course, pedophiles or drug dealers, of course. And I'm probably going to end up here comparing apples and strawberries. But I read about the proposal to train firemen, and I think that's a really, novel thing. But the first thing I thought of was, here we go again, the mental health hospital, and we had a riot in Camarillo, and I was very opposed to that more than anything because of the safety of our citizens. And with my infrastructure provisioning and engineering support, what it would do. It was a whole thing. It was just like, at the time, we don't have to address it again. The only thing I'm concerned about, and I guess Mike would be the most, at Verizon we used to call you a SME, a subject matter expert. And so today, this is something you don't know about me. I harass the firemen usually in gratitude with cookies or organic strawberries, and because I'm from New York City, And I think the first time I actually met Mike was the 5-year anniversary of 911, and he introduced himself to me, and I didn't know who he was yet. I didn't know. But then I saw him at the Constitution Park. I go, oh my God. So I took a trip today to talk to the firemen, and they go, oh, she's back. You know, they kid around with me, and I gave them some cookies. And I said, you know, I'm confused. How do you feel about, you know, these people and whatnot? And the guy said, as long as they're not dangerous, I know there's different categories of what you did. He said none of these people were, you know, dangerous type of crimes, maybe shoplifting or things of that nature. And I said, oh, so are you in favor of this suggestion? In other words, you think it's a good idea? They said, absolutely. I go, okay. You know, because you don't want to put out fires and start people hurting kids, for example. So that's all, and it wasn't on the agenda. But yes, I do harass firemen on a regular basis. Thank you.
Thank you. We had a whole program on that right here last night.
Last night.
You know, all the firemen?
The place were packed.
The place was filled with people last night.
Not firemen.
Not firemen, parolees.
I'm glad I missed that, actually, because I'm sorry. I'm from New York, and I'm nervous.
Okay.
That's all there is. Thank you.
Okay. Jeffrey, is it Burnham? Brown? I'm sorry.
Burnham.
I had trouble last night reading writing, too.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. My name is Jeffrey Burham. I'm running for U.S. Congress right here in our District 26. I'm also coming to you as a retired Air Force Major, a Desert Storm and Cold War veteran, United States Air Force Academy graduate, and a retired CPA. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a national emergency. It involves illegal immigration. Right now, our government tells us that we have 11 million illegal immigrants in this country. However, if you talk to the ICE agents, you will quickly find out it's more like 30 million.
Mm-hmm.
California is the worst offender. Approximately 28% of those 30 million come to California. In fact, California is a gateway to the rest of the country. In this state alone, 1 in 7, 1 in 6 people are illegal immigrants. I would like to remind you that when somebody comes to this country undocumented, it is a felony. We have that many felons. What's the impact of this? Well, first of all, crime. We've heard from the Department of Justice that there are at least 30,000 MS-13 members in 40 states. What does this state do? We don't deport them, but we do let them out of jail early.
Yep.
I'd like to also let you know that these people intend to vote. What does California do? Implement motor voter. When you take a look at how many people there are and that they want to vote and they want to affect our system, that is a bloodless invasion. And we should take this serious. The cost of all of this, according to the National Academy of Sciences, is $296 billion to the United States. At a net cost, that's about $176 billion. You take 28% of that, that's about $55 billion to the state of California. We already are about $1.5 trillion in debt. How are we going to pay for this? We're paying for an illegal invasion. And I don't need to tell you that we have the highest poverty rate, the 6th highest taxes, the lowest quality of life, and we have overpopulated housing, schools, and welfare systems. SB 54 is against the Constitution. It is the state of California making immigration law. The Constitution says only Congress can do that. You all took oaths to the Constitution, and I'd like you to consider that. Please put this on your agenda to join the Department of Justice against the state of California, against SB 50.
I'm sorry, but your 3 minutes are up.
Excuse me, ma'am. Thank you.
Your Honor, just one comment.
Okay.
I agree with everything you said, because those facts are true, and the federal government, we're going against the federal law, and hopefully that'll be solved here soon.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Next speaker is Bruce Boyer.
Good evening, Council. My name is Bruce Boyer. I'm candidate for sheriff. I thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you again. Sanctuary state is rebellion. There's no other way to put it. State of California politicians, and let's name them, Jackie Irwin, state assemblywoman from this district, Governor Brown, the state legislature that passed it, passed this in defiance of our federal Constitution. That is our flag. If they want to hoist down that flag and fly a rebel flag, I would like everyone in this city to stand between our flag and those rebels and say no. That American flag flies because this city is part of the United States of America, and the Constitution is the agreement that we operate under. And if they want to be in rebellion, then they're going to have to fight me, and I hope every one of us, to come through this, because it is rebellion. With the state of California in rebellion with Sanctuary State, they are opening the doors for every illegal alien in the United States to come here and get sanctuary, so that when they are arrested, they will be early released because of California laws and not turned over to ICE. Now, our Attorney General came to California in March, and it is disgusting that one of the cases he had to bring up is from right here in Ventura County. For those of you that read the Acorn, you may be familiar with Mr. Vaca. Mr. Vaca was charged with sexually assaulting on a repeated basis a 13-year-old girl. When he was arrested on the 1st of January, he made bail, $8,000. And because the Ventura County Sheriff's Department is in full compliance with the rebellion, they didn't check with ICE. So they didn't get an ICE hold on the illegal alien. So, of course, he skipped bail and went to Mexico. Why would he want to pay for his crimes? He got $8,000 to escape, 10 years in prison. Does it need to happen in Camarillo before you people understand we need to put an agenda item and say no and direct the Sheriff's Department to carry out the laws? Now, if Sheriff Dean wants to be in rebellion, you have the power to fix it. You write a check. You write the check from these taxpayers. And your contract with the Sheriff's Department says to enforce the laws, not to write them checks to be in rebellion. Right now, if they're in rebellion, they owe the taxpayers a lot of money. And if they don't want to comply, well, maybe this officer here would like to set up the Camarillo Police Department. Now, if I get elected as sheriff, I'm going to absolutely fix this. But in the meantime, you need to deal with it and hear from the citizens and bring it up. There are many more cases I can cite of the evil that is being done because the Sheriff's Department, Chief Hagel, last night in Thousand Oaks, told the public there's no adverse effects. That is a lie. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Boyer. I do have an announcement to make here. Last night, as I said, the City Council held a public meeting, and the public meeting was for the your sign. The public meeting was about the proposed fire camp to train parolees to be firefighters. At some point, I think it was 2 weeks ago, the City Council took a position against that, and there were two main reasons. It's a waste of $26 million of the taxpayers' money. Because at the end of the training program, there are no jobs. All of the people who will come here might not have the heavy felonies of being a sex offender or a murderer, although they told us that for the current fire camp that's there, and they've brought them in. They change their minds after they give us the criteria. But at any rate, it would cost $80,000 per person to train them for 18 months, for $80,000 a year. Each person would get 18 months of training, and at the end of the 18 months of training, they're not eligible to get a job as a firefighter because a felon cannot receive an EMT, Emergency Medical Technician certification, and almost all fire departments require that. So there are some other reasons. That's one of the main reasons that we're against this. If anybody here is also against it, there are 2 cards in the back. You can send them in to the chairman of the Assembly and the chairman of the Senate. There are 1 card for each budget committees, telling them how you feel.
Your Honor,
Okay, that's...
can I add to that?
Certainly.
One question was asked that they couldn't answer. How many of them are undocumented aliens that are put in this parole program?
Well,
And
they
could
couldn't
not answer that question.
They said they didn't screen for that.
Right, they don't screen for that.
We're going to move on to public hearings. We have 1 public hearing tonight. Accessory dwelling unit regulations, introduction of ordinance amending Camarillo Municipal Code, Chapter 19.56. Could we have a staff report, please?
Good evening, Mayor Craven, members of the council. The item before you is an amendment to the Camarillo Municipal Code regarding accessory dwelling units. Last year, the state passed legislation to regulate ADUs, and in order to be fully consistent with state law, your council adopted the current ordinance on April 12, 2017. That ordinance added Chapter 19.56 to the municipal code, combined all of the ADU information into 1 chapter, and revised development standards to be consistent with state law. This year, on January 1st, 2018, the state passed update legislation to clarify some of the existing laws. Several clarifications were made, but the only change that requires an action on our part is in regards to parking. Assembly Bill 494, referenced by Senate Bill 229, clarified that the state mandate is 1 parking space per bedroom or ADU, whichever is less. Right now, our code requires 1 parking space per bedroom, so we are required to change this to 1 parking space per unit. The bill also slightly modified the 2017 state language by deleting the word existing in reference to the driveway, and this just clarifies that parking for an ADU can be permitted on an existing driveway or a proposed driveway. We do anticipate that most ADUs constructed in our city will be studio or 1-bedroom units. However, 2-bedroom ADUs are permitted on lots over 1 acre in size, and these are typically in the RE zone, on lots that already have multiple car garages and also ample space either in their driveway or on their lot to construct a new driveway. And the parking does need to be on an improved surface or a driveway. So the change of removing the word existing is not a substantial change in the way we regulate ADUs. And therefore, staff is recommending that your council waive further reading and adopt the amendment to Camarillo Municipal Code Chapter 19.56 pertaining to accessory dwelling unit standards and approval procedures as proposed.
Are there any questions of staff? No questions? Okay, I will open the public hearing. I don't have any cards. Would anyone like to speak to this issue? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close the public hearing and ask for request a reading of the title.
Yes, this is Ordinance 1152, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Camarillo, California, amending the parking regulations under Section 19.56.060 of Chapter 19.56 of the Camarillo Municipal Code regarding accessory dwelling units.
What are the wishes of the council?
I'll move to waive further reading and introduce the ordinance amending the Camarillo Municipal Code Chapter 19.56 pertaining to the accessory dwelling unit standards and approval procedures.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have one departmental item, Summer at City Hall program. Could we have the staff report, Mr. City Manager?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. We're all familiar with the Ventura County Civic Alliance and the excellent work they do on their annual State of the Region report. In fact, that's what they're most known for. However, what's not well known is they also work on some other very fine initiatives. Things involving livable communities, workforce education, the Alliance for Linked Learning, and the Center for Public Dialogue. This evening, I'm proposing that we partner with the Civic Alliance in their Alliance for Linked Learning. And that is a collaboration between the Oxnard Union High School District, businesses in Oxnard, Port Hueneme, and Camarillo, and local organizations to help graduating seniors be better prepared for college, career, and life. And so part of that effort is a summer internship program. And the city of Oxnard and the county have done this for a couple years. They had requested us to be involved last year, but we couldn't swing it. But this year we're proposing a fairly robust program allowing for 8 summer interns to do some pretty interesting projects here and assist us with some things that, you know, we'd really like to get done, and we think that we can find some high school talent to do that. And so there are projects in public works, community development, city clerk's office, and administrative services. The prospective interns will be coming from either Adolfo Camarillo, Rancho Campana, or Rio Mesa High Schools, and they will complete applications for the internship opportunities they're interested in and will be interviewed by the department heads interested in hiring them. The interns will work for the city for a period of 5 weeks from June 25th to July 28th for a total of 60 hours each. They'll be paid our standard intern hourly wage. And in addition to their project work, the interns will spend time learning about the city of Camarillo, the services we provide, and how the city operates. They'll also be instructed on how to work in a professional environment with adults and other job preparedness skills. Technical assistance with the program's application and evaluation software will be provided to the city by the Civic Alliance. We're very excited to offer this program and to be able to have the resources to do it, and we ask for your approval to host this program.
Okay, and David Marin is here.
And David Marin is here from the Civic Alliance. You may like to say a few words.
And your talk last night was excellent. You set a high bar, so we're expecting really powerful words tonight, Mr. Marin.
Wow, really put me on the spot. Thank you, members of the council, staff. I'm David Marin with the Ventura County Civic Alliance, and keep this short. The city clerk is passing out a brochure that just gives a one-page highlights of the program. It's been in, we've had this program throughout California. We're only doing Oxnard and the County of Ventura. But part of the funding comes from the Institute for Local Government. You may be familiar with that organization as they work with cities throughout the state. And the idea is what they call GEY, Government Engaging Youth. They want to make students aware of how terrific careers can be in municipal government, county government. And so what they've done throughout the state is have these projects where students come in. The city manager, Mr. Norman, gave an excellent review of the program, and it's really quite eye-opening for the students. Many of them have never really worked in a city government. It gives them the opportunity to go home to their families and say, you won't believe what I learned, you won't believe how cool it is, what city government is doing. So very positive there, and I would expect that we will see future interns turn around and become department heads down the road from these experiences. And if they decide to go on to college, it's still excellent training that they're getting in an environment like this. One of the things we do to prepare the students is we run a boot camp for them where they are getting trained in how you shake hands, how you make eye contact, how you dress appropriately. We give them a nice looking polo shirts for when they show up for work and that type of thing. So we're trying to make this as easy on you, easy on staff. We've had wonderful success stories in Oxnard and at the county as far as students. Really, it's phenomenal to me. I mean, but some of them are quite talented and have done some great projects, and that's why we're invited back. So I could talk more, but I think the city manager's report covered everything, and we really hope that you'll embrace this. Mary Ann Rooney, many of you know her, she works for the Alliance as the project director on this program, and this is a partnership with the high school district. It was actually back in 2014 when the high school district won a $6 million Career Pathways grant, and then they partnered with the Alliance to be the business intermediary, and that's how we connect businesses with the students. And as Mr. Norman said, they'll come from Rancho Campana, Rio Mesa, and Camarillo High School, and we really appreciate the opportunity.
Any questions? Mr. Kildee.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave, for being here. Is there a mentor that's in charge of these interns, and the hours that they work, is that up to the city to decide that? And will there, like you say, there's 4 interns, let's just say for the groundwater desalter, water valve. Is that something that the criteria that we developed, or is that what you developed, or is that?
Yes, council member, we developed the projects, and we developed the program. In terms of your first question,
hours?
Yeah, the hours. Yeah, and we established the hours for the program.
We'll establish the
Yeah, generally the programs are 60 hours or 120 hours. We wanted to start with a 60-hour program this year to see how it worked for us. But we developed programs that could be done within that 60-hour program, within that 60-hour time frame.
Is there a mentor from is there a mentor there, or are there?
So the way it will work is if the council approves this, then our project director, Mary Ann Rooney, will meet with staff to define the program. There's a lot of flexibility as far as if you decide to move things around. If you're unhappy with a student, we'll deal with that as well. Sometimes there's an educational component where they'll have outside classes before they come here, or some other opportunity to learn more about civics, and we'll make sure that they have transportation to arrive here. So if there is a need or a problem or mentoring needed, we'll get that provided.
Do we select the intern, or does your organization select?
We select the intern.
You select them?
Yes.
Okay. So you advertise it at the 3 schools, and ask for, is there an application form that they fill out?
So there's an opportunity that's posted to the teachers and the students to be aware of the program, and it's a little bit like matchmaking. So the students may list what they're particularly interested in, what their skill set may be. Maybe somebody has some experience working in mechanical engineering or something, and then the city has the final say to say, well, this student looks like a good fit here. They can interview or decide if this student is the right person or not. And if we can't fill it, we won't fill it. But it's up to the city, and you'll have final say.
All right. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Any other questions?
Good program. Good program.
Well, I've had 2 presentations on this before tonight, and it sounded like a really good program to me both times. And I think it's going to be wonderful. I know Michelle is sitting out there, and at one time she was president of the Youth Advisory Committee. And
locally?
Here in Camarillo, she used to stand right there and give us reports, Mr. Kildee. Only she was a much younger Michelle then. She was back in high school at Camarillo High School, and we finally sent her program over to the Rec and Park District, you might remember. Yeah. But at any rate, I think that this is our next foray into doing something about working with young people to bring them into government jobs, and I think that's extremely important.
Good occupation.
Mr. Tremblay.
So, speaking as a former intern for the county of Marin, more years ago than I care to remember, and I worked for what was essentially the analog, I think, the Office of Criminal Justice Planning, essentially. That was a life-changing experience for me, and it opened my eyes to what the possibilities were, and I will always be indebted to the folks who I was able to work with at the County of Marin. So I read about a program like this, and having the chance to support something like that is just terrific for me, and I want to give you kudos, David, the Ventura County Civic Alliance, kudos, great kudos, as well as ILG, as well as city staff. This is a program that absolutely has a very positive engagement and education aspect. And I'm so pleased that you're here. I'm so pleased we're going to be doing this program. So you certainly have support from a former intern from many, many, many years ago.
Thank you.
Your Honor,
Mr. Morgan?
I wish I'd had that program when I was in high school, leaving, not knowing where you're going, except college, and trying to figure out what you want to do later. And even when you get later, you wonder what you're going to do, but you finally find it. But no one really knows what goes on inside of government, not just the cities, but the counties and others, that are well paid, and you can really learn a lot and educate yourself further. So I think what you're doing now is great for the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Certainly.
Turn the microphone back on first. I'll make a motion to approve the 2018 Summer at City Hall program in cooperation with the Ventura County Civic Alliance.
I'll second the motion.
The motion is second. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. We have one other item. Item B, under departmental soil remediation, stock lumber property at 2800 Berry Street. Could we have a staff report, please?
Yes, I'll be presenting the staff report on this, Madam Mayor. This is the stock lumber property that is located on Berry Street at the intersection with Lewis. The city and the owner of that property is BMC. We're currently in escrow on that property, and we're in what we call the due diligence phase in checking out the conditions of the soil at that property. This is a location map. You can see where stock lumber is located in the blue and some of the surrounding landmark and businesses. The next photo is more of a close-up. The blue line outlines the stock lumber site. This is the main building here where I'm pointing. There was a former gas station in the northeast corner of the property. That was thoroughly investigated. There was some trenching that was done there. There was no evidence of any tanks or any contamination in that location. However, on the west side, and I'll show you a slide in a few minutes that will depict an area where there is some soil that is going to need to be removed. So Rincon Consultants was retained to do an investigation of the soils. They submitted to the city and to BMC a proposal for remediation of the soil. It's going to involve the removal of approximately 500 cubic yards of soil. The contamination is relatively shallow. It's approximately 2 feet on the average depth, so it's not a deep contamination. And the groundwater in this location is very deep, and there's no indication of any involvement by the groundwater. So this was the slide that I referenced earlier. This is the western portion of the site. The green locations here that I'm pointing to, those were all borings which were positive for the contamination, and the outline, which is in red around it, is the area of the soil that's going to be removed. Okay, not sure why it's there. We go. So now this removal of the soil is going to cost some money. The proposal is to contract with Rincon. It would be a contract with the city and Rincon and BMC to do the remediation work. The cost estimate is $155,608. There's a backfill cost which would be associated if the soil were to be replaced after the excavation had been made to remove the contaminated soil. And we are recommending that backfill cost not be included in the initial work, so that would bring the net cost down to $114,000. Now, BMC has agreed to pay 50% of the total cost of the $155,000, so they've agreed to pay $77,000.
That would mean that the city's cost will be $36,000. The reason for the disparity is that eventually that soil is going to have to come back in because there's a depression there now, and it's my understanding from speaking with Public Works that there are some low spots at Stock Lumber site that there's going to be a need to bring in some soil eventually, and that is when the backfill could be brought back in to fill the area. So the recommendation that's in your report is that we take the backfill cost out and we bring that soil in later when we're bringing in the trucks of importing the soil. This slide addresses the issue of CEQA, and it's our conclusion that there's a notice of exemption that applies here for cleanup actions. These are the 5 requirements: that it costs less than $1 million, it doesn't involve a hazardous waste incinerator, it doesn't require relocation of the residence or business, it doesn't involve a potential release into the air of volatile organic compounds, and it doesn't involve a hazardous waste site pursuant to the government code. And we pass on all of those 5 requirements, so it is categorically exempt from CEQA. So the suggested action this evening, you see it on the board. It would be a motion finding that the proposed remediation work is categorically exempt from CEQA pursuant to the CEQA guidelines, and to authorize the city manager to execute the Rincon proposal with a city contribution of $36,729. Where this would go from this point is that once the remediation is completed, then escrow would close, and once escrow is closed and the city owns the property, then the city would be able to consider offering the property or negotiating with companies who could come in and provide affordable housing opportunities, which is the purpose of the purchase. So that's the report. I'm available to answer questions.
Any questions? Yes, Mr. Trembling.
Mr. Pierik, Rincon and its remediation action plan and the staff report, it notes that the screening level criteria that are being utilized for this site are the ones that are promulgated by the Regional Water Quality Control Board for San Francisco. Could you explain the significance of that? Because it doesn't involve any LA Regional Water Board standards.
That is correct. And the reason for that is with the type of contamination that exists here, the Los Angeles Water Board does not have a standard. So the standard has been set by the San Francisco Regional Water Quality Board, and so that's the reason it's used. And I have confirmed with Rincon that Ventura County Environmental Health, which is going to be monitoring the work, that they also apply the San Francisco standard. So that is the industry standard.
And the reason to apply the San Francisco standard, would it be fair to say, is because, particularly with this as a multifamily housing development, that is the strictest standard, so we can be assured of public health and safety when it comes time to develop that property?
Yeah, the answer is yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? What are the wishes of the council?
Move the approval of staff recommendation.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we have finished with our agenda. We finished with all the closed sessions, I believe.
Your Honor, can I?
Oh, yes.
I have a request from the council. I have a dear friend of mine that passed away last week, and he was a military man. He was an ex-Blue Angel. He was an over 40-year resident of Camarillo, and he was a successful businessman in Camarillo. He had a concrete business, Bob McDonough, and I'd request that we adjourn in his memory.
Bob who?
McDonough.
McDonough, oh.
Okay. We will adjourn in Bob McDonough's memory, and with that, we are adjourned.